Hello and welcome back to the Fallon Moran podcast. That's me. Today we are joined with my very good friend Lindsey. She's coming to us all the way from Texas. I'm really excited to talk to her today because we're going to be talking about energy and how it works in your business and your marketing. And Lindsey, we have known each other for quite a long time, but I still want you to hop on in and give everybody a quick little bio about who you are, what you do, and how you got into energy.
Okay, I would love to share that with you. Okay, so I am Lindsey. I am born and raised in Louisiana, but now living in Texas, so I'm a Texas Cajun. I am a very enthusiastic hype girl for everyone in their life and business. I pride myself in being the best hype girl ever. And I have recently gone on a very extensive personal growth journey where I discovered and created the guide to self-discovery so that you can dive deep into understanding and knowing yourself and using that to guide you and live a life with flow and ease and tons of understanding and excitement and confidence that you're moving in the right direction. And energy, like our energy cycles, are a part of that. And it has been incredibly helpful.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially as women, because we have lots of cycles. So it's good to know how to utilize those cycles to our advantage. So I definitely want to ask you, because I know you've brought this up before. What does the energy cycle look for women, especially in terms of how they are, functioning in their business?
Okay, awesome. All right, so just a tiny bit of backstory. So men operate on a 24-hour energy cycle, which is why they can wake up every day, do the same work, go to sleep, turn around and do it again. Women, however, do not operate on a 24-hour energy cycle, and we operate on a 28-day cycle, aka our menstrual cycle. But it's not just the menstruation, it transcends into your energy. And when I say energy, it's how you feel, it's the sleep that you're getting, it's the energy levels, it's the mood, it's the creativity and all of the drive to do all of these things. And, I kind of personally had hit a wall and was in a place of frustration because I would hit these times in the month and I could not produce work no matter how hard I tried. I would stare at the computer and I would do stuff, and it was like at the end of the day, nothing happened. And I couldn't understand why. And when I started digging deeper into understanding the feminine energy cycles, that was when I discovered that we have these waves of energy throughout the month. And whenever you tap into that and you incorporate the way you work inside of your business and line it up with your feminine energy cycle, you become like this masterful superwoman inside of your business. It's a life hack. Business
That
hack.
is super awesome. I can imagine that with each week, it's probably a little different because when you're on your cycle, it's probably a lot. You're probably like, I want to just be inside and I don't want anybody to bother me. You don't want to be productive at all. And you don't want to do anything for your business. So I can imagine that week by week it changes, especially because we do typically have about 4 weeks. It's probably different for everybody, but is there any specific, week 1 is you do absolutely nothing. Week 2 is whatever.
Yep, there absolutely is.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go over them with you so that you know exactly how they work and what their spacing is for whatever reason.
Cool. I'm really excited because
yeah,
it makes so much sense because every morning when I wake up and I look over at Tommy, I'm like, are you ready? He's ready for the day. And he's like, okay, let's go. And I'm like, whoa, you're jumping out of bed. And I'm like, I still want to kind of sit,
Yeah. It definitely takes me a minute to wake up too, and I'm right there with you. It's like, whoa, slow down, people. I didn't mean I was that ready. Okay, so it's interesting because it's not like a week by week thing. Mm-hmm. It is according to certain days. And I will say, like you said, everyone's is different. Mm-hmm. And for me, my cycle is incredibly irregular. And so I actually My cycle is more like 5 to 6 weeks instead of the 28 days. And that's why it's incredibly helpful to track it, because when you track it, then you really have a good idea. So there's 4 different phases, okay? There is the menstrual, there's the follicular, there's the ovulation or ovulatory phase, and there is the luteal phase. And even though technically your cycle starts with the follicular phase, I like to start with the menstrual, because that's something that we can see and or tangible that we can kind of track. And I also want to say this for people, I've had so many people who say, oh, well, I don't have a period. I have an IUD, or I'm growing a human, or I'm, well, I couldn't think this word either. When you get hot flashes, that whole.
Oh, menopause.
Thank you. How do you eat today? So there's a slight disconnect there. Okay. But yeah. And so there are ways that you can track your cycle without having to have an actual menstruating body. Okay. So I just want you to know that. So don't check out and be like, oh, this doesn't apply because I don't have a period, because you do have a feminine energy cycle. Okay. So the first one is the menstruation. And this is where we have our lowest energy of the month or of your cycle. And this is a time of reflection, of introspection, of rest, and of recovery. And the way that I like to think about this is, if you didn't have, because we're always like, why me? Why do I have to do this? Why does my body have to do this? Why can't I just be on all the time? But if we didn't have this phase, we would never stop to reevaluate, because we as women tend to go, go, go. We do all the things. We take care of everyone. We're doing all these things inside of our business. And if we don't ever have time to rest and to course correct, we could potentially continue going in the wrong direction if we're not tweaking as we go. So it forces us to rest and reflect. And also, as busy women who run our own businesses, if we don't take the time to rest, our bodies will force us to, and we will get sick. And so not honoring this menstruation phase can potentially, affect your immune system and cause you to be down longer than you want to. So, and you want to just kind of honor this phase in the way that works best for you. You might still kind of have a fairly high energy menstruation, but this is very similar to the new moon. So we're looking at everything, and we're really evaluating what does and doesn't work for us. In our business and in our life.
Yeah, I love that, especially because when I think about marketing and in business, you can't just always go with the same thing all the time, because it has to adjust to what programs you're talking about, what your offers are, who it is that you're trying to connect with, and what market it is that you're trying to speak to, what they're feeling, because their feelings, if you're talking about moms and you're talking about, we could use the easy, example of dads, like they're feeling 2 different things, right? So you want to be able to take the time away to rest and recover and to reflect on how you might want to connect with your market, on how you might want to communicate, whether it's in your content, whether it's in your, copy, your emails, your videos, your podcasts, whatever, because then you'll be able to better connect with those feelings and market to those people to get their attention for what it is that you have to offer. So that is definitely very useful. So that's phase 1. So then what is phase 2?
Okay, so let me say this one last thing about phase 1 that I think is really important. In your business and in your life during phase 1, I have found for me, this is kind of where we have like a midlife crisis every month. And being a business owner, we all know this. Every single month, we're like, what am I doing? Am I doing anything right? And like, this is a big indicator that you're in your menstrual phase. It's making you question everything. And so, we're a lot of people, and if we don't understand this, we can really be overly critical and, be kind of mean to ourselves if we don't understand. You can think that you're a failure. You can think that nothing's working right. Really, you're like, just chill out, dude. You're in your menstruation phase, and next week your brain will work again. Okay, so calm down. But the other thing that I was going to say is, like, this is a great time in your business and in your marketing to go in and to look at and analyze all the things that you've done and say, okay, like, this is a great time for you to look at your insights, for you to look at the angle of marketing of how am I speaking to my customers? How did I present this? How do people respond? What time did I post? Like, this is a great time for you to do that, because now you can kind of see, because both sides of your brain are working together in this, which is why it can be more analytical and reflective. So as far as marketing, it's a great time to do that.
Oh my God. Amazing. Love it.
Okay, so phase 2, and this is technically the first. So like I said, I like to start with the menstruation. Phase 2 is your follicular phase. And this phase technically marks the beginning of your cycle. It lasts approximately 10 to 14 days. And this is when you are a creative goddess. This is where the ideas are flowing. This is where you're really like, ooh, what if I did this? Ooh, what if I did that? And you're jotting stuff down, and you're really kind of trying to plan stuff, or maybe incorporate new ideas in your business. This is a great time for you to start new projects, for you to brainstorm, for you to like get into these groups and like really start like just like spitballing ideas. Like, this is where you're super creative in the month, and it lasts 10 to 14 days.
That is awesome. 2 whole weeks that you have at your disposal to be a creative genius. That could be graphics, that could be videos, that could be anything. I have to wonder, because you mentioned this earlier, and I know that you know that I'm growing a human, but I don't know if everybody else knows that I'm growing a human. When you are growing a human, or you're in menopause, because I know you said that this applies to both, how does the creative phase get affected?
So, with your feminine energy cycle, if you are like you're not menstruating, right? So it's hard for this too, but your body is used to this flow. I mean, we are a machine. We don't think of ourselves as a machine. And so we're constantly in ebb and flow, and we're going to have the creative and, run through all the phases. And some people may find that they actually sync up with the moon phases more. In fact, like reflectors, they live their life by the moon, and that's a whole nother conversation with the human design. But some people sync up with the moon more. And so as far as how it affects it, I really think that taking a step back and just observing is going to be super helpful for you to just know when are those sweet spots in your creative and in the other phases. And I actually created a little calendar where, if you don't have a cycle, instead, what you can do is you can reverse engineer it. You can track your symptoms and your mood and the way that you're feeling inside of your business to tell you what phase you're in, and to be able to map out what it's going to look like for you next month. So
that is super awesome.
Backwards. Yeah.
I kind of want that, because I've been stuck for like the last 3 weeks. I know that you and I were talking about this earlier, and like, even though I'm not within a cycle, I am like going through this phase of like not knowing. And if I could track it, that would probably help me a whole lot more than just not tracking it and just letting it continue. So I might take you up on that. That might be something that I'm going to ask you about very, very soon.
Yeah, it really eliminates a lot of confusion. And, you can also be mindful. Some people are synced up to other people's cycles, or like I said, some people are synced up to the moon. And so it just paying attention and observing. I mean, the key to all of this, any kind of inner work that you're doing, is becoming an observer of your life, of your mind, of your thoughts, of your energy, of your emotions. And, inside of this, not to get too sidetracked, but like, we have different energy cycles throughout the day as well. That's not determined by our feminine energy, it's determined by how we operate. And so that, in addition to tapping into this as well, is just, you're going to hack your life and your business.
Yeah, it sure sounds like it. So this was all phase 2. Phase 2 is 10 to 14 creative days. And that was also the follicular phase. So what is phase 3, and what are we going to be experiencing if we're not going to have any creativity? Are we losing it entirely, or is it just kind of like shifting? It's going to a different form, so to speak.
Yeah, it kind of just transforms. And when you go on your next phase is your ovulatory phase. And so this is when you're ovulating, and this is when you are like on fire. You're like the communication queen. And it's very short. It's a short window, but you can get a lot done in that short window, because like I said, it's like you're freaking on. And if you know anything about like your ovulatory phase, your voice changes, like your voice softens and becomes more sultry and more desirable, and your skin is softer and you're glowing and you're less bloated and your tits are bigger. Like, it's just really a great time to be alive during your ovulatory phase, which makes your partner want to make a baby with you. Like, that's the whole point, right? Like, you're hot and you're on.
Yeah.
And so this is a great time for you to do videos and to reach out and to communicate with people. In fact, like Fallon and I scheduled this. Right now I'm ovulating. I looked at my thing and I was like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna be ovulating on the 24th. Like, let's do it then. I will be on. And I've been on fire all day. And I knew that. And so I planned it, and I've been recording videos and stuff. And like, this is what you can do in your business. And so because of that, it's also a great time in your business to negotiate deals, to ask for a raise, to maybe ask for something that you really want from your significant other, like, hey, can we go on a vacation? Or whatever you want. Like, it's really a great time for you to do that because you just have this energy about you. So it's a very short window. It's 2 days, but you can get a lot done in those 2 days.
I can imagine. It sounds to me like these might be the best 2 days of the month because you can not only get a lot done, like productively wise, but in terms of creation, in terms of what it is that you're going to be putting out, whether it's on your stories, whether it's on TikTok, whether it's on Reels, whether it's on YouTube, your marketing is going to be much more effective than those other days. I mean, don't get me wrong. When you're in that creative phase, you're probably going to come up with some really great ideas and put out some really awesome content. But there definitely is something to be said about having effective communication in your marketing, because some people can take things different ways and you don't anticipate for that. So it definitely affects whether or not they're going to become a buyer or whether they're not going to become a buyer. So it's good to know.
Yeah, you're like preserving your glow. It's like you're bottling it up if you're doing it in that day. And here's the cool thing. So like, you have the creative phase where you're just like, all these ideas, you know, you're documenting it, you're working on it, and you're throwing all these ideas around. Mm-hmm. Then you start communicating these ideas, these inspirations that you have, right? Then you lead into your luteal phase, which is your masculine energy execution phase. So it's like you get the creativity, then you like speak it, you know, and you're like, this is what I'm going to do. And then you turn around and you roll right into your powerhouse masculine energy phase. And then you start knocking shit out. You start banging it out and you start having the energy to do this. And your brain has more of the like critical thinking, like detail oriented abilities during this time. And so this is a great time to execute everything that you have been trying to create. So this is a great time for you to schedule content, to plan stuff, like to plan your month, all the details and all of that stuff. Like, this is a great time to wrap things up and to bang it out before you hit your menstrual cycle again. And so the coolest thing about tapping into your energy cycle, besides knowing that you're not a failure and your life isn't falling apart on a monthly basis, because every month I know it's coming, and then every month I have it and I'm like, oh yeah, it's my menstrual cycle. Calm down. But in this, if you can plan your business around your cycle, then you can plan in this luteal phase to execute so much that when you roll into your menstrual cycle again and you have low energy, you're planning the low energy tasks that require nothing. And then you can just be, and you can recharge, and you can like tap into your feminine and be whatever and recalibrate. And then you're like, boom, I'm ready to create again. So it's just a cycle of like rest and creation and like communication, being in that community, and then like getting it done. And so, you know, where you would think like, oh, I have this huge disadvantage because I don't have the same energy level all month. It's like, no, like where guys have a 24-hour, we can still accomplish the same amount of stuff. We're doing it on our own schedule in our own way.
Yeah. I love that, because now that gives me something to look forward to once the peanut has arrived, because I've never really understood how to plan your business or even your content, your marketing, your videos around your cycle. I've seen people talk about it before, but I've never actually like broke it down where we can actually apply it to what it is that we're doing within our business. So This was super helpful, Lindsey. I am so appreciative that you were able to share all of this amazing knowledge with us. Now, I know that you mentioned earlier that you are using this in something you call being a self-discovery guide. So I want to ask you if you can expand on that a little bit more, and if you can tell us how this plays into self-discovery.
Absolutely. And one thing that I wanted to say about like planning your business, like when you go into your ovulatory, if you're really planning your marketing, that's when you're launching. That's when you're like sharing. And if you can plan your marketing around that and like your launches and your programs and your videos and even schedule off on your menstruation week, think about that. Like you're hacking. You're really
You have like a whole month too, now that I'm thinking about it, between those phases. So you could effectively plan out your launch like at least 3 weeks before you would go and launch.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you can set up your stuff that's just trickling in, or like get everything set to just automatically be rolling while you're on your menstrual. And then you're doing like a hands off launch, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. So sorry. I didn't want to forget that. So,
No,
all right. So
that's good.
for the self-discovery guide, the guide to self-discovery. So in my journey, I, picked up these little bits and pieces of everything. And it just hit me one day when I was like, oh my gosh, all of this plays in together. And it's not just one thing that dictates who I am and how I operate, but it's all these things that are like weave together in this web that create me, and everyone's is so different. And so in your self-discovery, like as part of you, your individual, there are all these layers that make you. And the foundation of that is your subconscious program, which is your computer program that's running the show 95% of the time. And so that program is what is creating your now and your future. And if you want to see change, you have to do it on the foundational level of your subconscious program. And I always like to say, like, would you build a house on a bad foundation? If you do, expect the walls to crack and your floors to buckle and your windows to not be seated right and all of that jazz. Like you have to build a house on a solid foundation, and that's your life. Okay. And so then when you start layering, then you have your human design, and that really shows you how you operate, how you should respond to things, what you should say yes to and say no to, how you should be working, how to prevent burnout, all of these things. And then I added in the layer of your love language, because a lot of times if we don't understand our love languages and other people's love languages, we can feel a lot of resistance, a lot of resentment, a lot of disconnect, and a lot of confusion around people's behaviors and our expectations of people. On top of that is your soul's purpose, which if you don't know what your soul's purpose is, or you're, in opposition of your soul's purpose, or even know what you should be doing, but you're doing what your parents told you you should do, or what society tells you you should do, you're going to continue to live in a cycle of repeat where everything looks and feels the same, because you're not serving your purpose on this planet. So it's a huge part of it. And then your trauma is a part of your blueprint, because it dictates how you respond, what triggers you, why we act the way we do, why do we put up a wall, why do we close people off, why do we, act this way in a fight, why do we do that, why don't I like that person? And I know trauma is kind of a taboo topic, but it's something that you can heal and work through without having to relive the whole thing. And that's the approach that I like to take. I'm not trying to relive that shit again. And I'm not trying to have anybody else relive it either, because then you just spiral and it brings you down lower than you are now. But you can heal it and move through it and release it so that you can kind of course correct. And then the next layer is your personal beliefs and experiences, or just your perspective. Like Fallon and I were talking about this the other day, and it's like your perspective can only be seen by you, and you are seeing life through the lens of everything that you've experienced and everything that you believe from your upbringing up until now. And it's interesting to think about that nothing that you see or that anyone else see actually is what we think it is, because our perspective is what makes us believe that. So when you look at your perspective and your beliefs, you can kind of fine tune that lens that you're looking through, and then you can kind of shift your perspective. And then I also have aspects of the program are the tools that you can use to recalibrate your compass and to move through your self-discovery journey. And that's things like gratitude and affirmations, meditation, inner child work, shadow play because it can be fun, and meditation. And those are some of the tools that I have used to heal and to dig deeper and to really help course correct and put me in the right direction and to help others do the same.
Yeah. Oh my God. So couple of things, because this is very layered, like you were saying before, like it's so very layered, and all of it starts with the subconscious. And I don't want to go through each layer, but there were like a couple in particular that really stood out to me specifically for more along the lines of marketing. But the first one I want to kind of break down a little bit is the subconscious layer, because we don't necessarily know what's going on, but we know that we have a subconscious layer. So when we are marketing, it will affect our prospects in some sort of way in their subconscious, but it also is reflective of our own, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're basically like, we're almost like projecting. We're not it doesn't mean that we're human design projectors, but it's like we're projecting our subconscious to connect with other subconsciouses.
And you know what's interesting? Everything is a mirror. Like, so anything that you say is a reflection of what I need to see. So if you take your perspective and you put it out there from your subconscious, the way that you see it, people will see it and it will reflect whatever messaging it is that they need to receive. However, which I feel like you're getting at with your subconscious, when you're using these specific words that speak to the subconscious in the way that the subconscious needs to be spoken to, you can actually clearly communicate with other people's subconscious mind past the ego, because the subconscious mind understands verbiage in a certain way that your ego can't actually process. I mean, that's really digging into NLP, but it is something that you can incorporate in your marketing.
Yeah. Well, it was funny. I was actually listening to a TikTok the other day. It was a couple weeks ago, but it was really interesting because they talk about how certain words will affect how people react or respond to whatever it is that you're trying to do. So this guy used the example of Apple in particular, where most customer service employees are trained not to use the word unfortunately, because when when your mind hears that word, it's literally like it puts up a wall, like this is something that's going to be bad. I don't want to hear about it. Like your subconscious does that without you even realizing it, because it's a negative connotated word. But if you use the phrase, as it turns out, it's more open and it's more inviting. So you can cross-sell, you can upsell just because you changed your phrase from unfortunately to as it turns out. And there are plenty of other phrases that you can use in this particular instance, but that was one that I know on a subconscious level, it stops other people from basically not being able to make, a sale, to opening up the door to making a sale, because they just shifted the subconscious reaction to what it was that the customer service representative was saying. So that was the first thing I wanted to break down, because I think that's really, really super interesting. The other one that I kind of want to ask about, because you mentioned love languages, and something that I've been noticing, I know that you and I talked about, I'm kind of stalking one particular person. I've been stalking this person for a very long time on Instagram, but she has such a way with words. And you were talking about love languages, and we have one love language in particular that's words of affirmation. Now, I want to get your perspective on this, because I know that there are more than just one love language. Is words of affirmation a typical language for people, or is it really like it could be anything in the world? Because words of affirmation would be great to use in your marketing, and it would be phenomenal to keep that up in your stories, in your videos, etc. But what if somebody has like a physical touch kind of love language? Like how can we use that information in our marketing to our advantage?
So most people, words of affirmation are incredibly powerful, but most people have a combination of all of the love languages or some variation. When I did mine, I was shocked to see that part. I thought mine was words of affirmation, and a huge part of mine was quality time.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that you can do, and like part of hacking into your love languages is giving yourself the love languages that you need so that you're not requiring them from other people. And so in your marketing, finding ways to deliver those love languages, I think is going to come through your storytelling and your ability to paint a picture and visualize that it evokes a feeling that would relate to that love language. So, if someone's love language is physical touch, you want to paint a picture where they feel loved and like they're getting the embrace of a huge hug, because it's the emotion that comes out when they receive it. So instead of focusing on the physical of the words of it, focus on the feeling that they get when they receive that love language. And also like the chemicals that are released in their brain whenever they get that, and tapping into that.
Yeah, really good point, especially because that's more along the lines of neuromarketing and connecting with the feelings that your audience has. So I love that you bring that up, because even though you cannot physically touch them, if you relate the feelings of what it is that they're going to experience, then it's going to come across in your marketing. I love that. That one's awesome.
And you can also bring it into, like, if you are doing in-person stuff, that's where you can really hit all the love languages. Some people want to be in person and touch people, and some people don't want to be touched. Yeah. It just depends on the person.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody has their boundaries, right? But, that is a love language for some people. And even if it's just like like you're holding somebody's hand or you're giving them a hug, like it comes across as like, I care, I'm invested, and I want to help you do this in your business. I want to help you get through this struggle. So that was definitely another one that came up for me when you were talking through these layers, because I was like, how could you possibly do something like that for physical touch? So I'm glad you just took the time right there to explain it out. So all right. So last one that I want to cover really super quick was human design. I have been like so into human design lately. I know you have been into human design, and I want to know, because there are 5 different profiles, how can we use that to our advantage when we are running our businesses, when we're talking or communicating in our marketing? How can we use that to our advantage?
So this was really kind of the part of the tipping point with me understanding my human design. And whenever I did that, I was able to just turn the key and step out of the cage. So that's a huge, there's not enough time. Okay, I'm just kidding. It's a huge part, but it's when you understand your human design, you can operate in a way that is going to serve your business. So like, briefly, we have generators, we have manifesting generators, we have manifestors, we have projectors, and we have reflectors. And so manifestors speak things into existence. Generators are the worker bees of the world. They can make stuff happen. Manifesting generators can do both. Reflectors are, projectors are there to kind of observe and like supervise and kind of say what it is. And then the reflectors are just there to be a mirror. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean that they don't have an identity. They do, but they're just like very ebb and flow, and they're very in sync with the moon. So like, we're both manifesting generators. So in my business, what I learned was that I was doing stuff that didn't light me up. And when you do stuff as a manifesting generator or as a generator that does not light you up, it will suck your soul dry. Mm-hmm. And so you have to pay attention to that. What things am I doing that are sucking the soul out of me? And another huge part of our human design is responding. So some people have to respond to something. Some people have to have an invitation. And so if you're thinking about that and you're trying to hit everyone on the realm, you have to hit all the things that make them feel good. You have to make them feel like a leader to hit the manifestor. You have to give them an invitation to something that they can light up to. You have to give them something that they can respond to. So incorporating that call to action. You have to edify them and let them feel special and wanted and know that they have the worth as a projector. And as a reflector, you just need to positively say things and allow them to say things back to you so that they can listen to their response. And so just like with the personality, like you were talking about the other day, like in your marketing, hitting all the different phases of personality, you kind of need to hit every aspect of people's human design. Because if someone wants to take action and it's their design to respond, they're not going to respond if you don't give them a call to action.
Yeah. Lindsey.
Or they're not going to feel wanted, like they have a place there, if you don't edify them and acknowledge their gifts. They're not, you know what I mean?
Yeah. All of this is so important. And it's been really helpful, especially because I don't just run this business. I also run another business where I work with Tommy, and he is a projector. So he needs to be edified and he needs to be supported because he is not the same as me, because I am a manifesting generator. So it definitely, it comes through, and it's actually very, very helpful to know and to use and to utilize, not just in terms of your marketing, but even in terms of how you run your business. So I think we'll do an episode on that later on, just because it is a very intensive, like there needs to be more time to go over that one.
Well, sure. And the cool thing is this transcends into your relationships too, which is why I really think I'm going to do the relationship masterclass workshop on your human design and your love languages with your significant other, because this is life-changing.
Yeah.
It's life-changing.
Yeah. So Lindsey, I want to ask you this last question before we wrap things up. Do you have anything that's going on you want to tell our audience about? Is it that masterclass? Do you have another course, or do you have another program that's going on sometime soon? Tell us all the things, and also tell us where we can find you.
Okay, so thank you for asking. I am actually about to launch the Guide to Self-Discovery 2.0, where you can actually go through the course and look and figure out your blueprint, work at your own pace, course online. But I am also offering, in conjunction, I don't know, that's not the right word, with that, you can do that by itself, or you can choose to participate in like an intensive workshop where we actually take the things that you're learning from the course and apply them to your life and do the work. And then you get a community where you can actually share this stuff with, because if you're on this journey, you know that it can be weird and not everybody is accepting of all of these concepts. And so it's a safe space for you to be able to speak about your moments. And so I have all of my links in on my Instagram bio at Lindsey Rummel, and then also on my TikTok bio at Lindsey W. Rummel on TikTok.
Yeah, be sure to go check out her TikTok, because it is literally amazing. I've seen Lindsey grow from she had a couple thousand and now she's at 140 something thousand. It's been quite a year of TikTok growth for her. So do be sure to go check out all of her stuff. She is amazing. Her self-discovery guide 2.0, I'm sure is going to be amazing. I know her first program was, and I know a couple of people who have absolutely changed their life because of it. So Lindsey, I want to thank you so much for taking the time today and coming on to talk about all of this information. Thanks for joining. Be sure to tune in next time. This is Fallon Moran Podcast. Okay, bye.
Bye now.